Welcome back to the Progress Over Perfection podcast, where we talk to real people about real things involving weight loss, nutrition, fitness, and mindset. I'm your host, Ryan Johnson, and the show is produced by Josh Toller. If you haven't already, go ahead and add us wherever you listen to your podcasts or subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get weekly updates to the show. Today, we're delving into finding your why, the first step to lasting change. It's about those moments when we decide once and for all to take the reins of our health and well-being. What ignites that spark? Is it a photograph, a doctor's visit, or realizing that you want to be around longer for your kids? This episode is dedicated to those pivotal turning points that compel us to say enough is enough. Whether you're on the hunt for your why or you've already embarked on your journey, join us as we explore the power behind that crucial decision and the transformative steps that follow toward embracing a healthier lifestyle. As a reminder, this is a call-in style show, so if you'd like to be a caller on the show, please fill out the form linked in the description or the show notes. Before we dive deeper into those life-changing moments, let's take a quick pause for a word from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by, it's brought to you by me. While we are busy out there looking for great deals to bring your way, I wanted to let you know, if you were looking for tips, motivation, and encouragement on your own weight loss journey, I'd encourage you to sign up for my weight loss newsletter at emailswithryan.com. It's like having an online coach delivered straight to your inbox, minus the sweat. Again, if you're looking for tips, motivation, success stories, anything to help you on your own weight loss journey, please sign up for my email newsletter at emailswithryan.com. Thanks again for listening to today's episode. All right, so let's get back to uncovering the whys that spark real, lasting change on our health and fitness paths. Now, I know for me personally, this is a story that you may or may not have heard before, but I'm going to talk about what that turning point was for me that got me started in not only losing the weight, but keeping it off. So I have always been somebody that has struggled with my weight. I remember when I was in the fifth grade, I popped the buttons on my dad's pants. As a grown man, I couldn't fit into his pants when I was in the fifth grade. So I've always been somebody that has kind of struggled, but went on, graduated high school, went off to college, did a ROTC there, joined the Army. Fortunately, the Army has a good way of keeping you in shape because you have to be. But even through that time, I kind of struggled with my weight, the ups and downs, and have, again, gained and lost the same 40 to 60 pounds countless times. But when I was 33 years old, coming up on 4 years ago now, we were a few months into COVID. I had been out of the Army for about 5 years. And since leaving that time, not having that accountability and kind of that need to stay in shape, I kind of let myself go a little bit, had put on some weight, and COVID hit. I was stressed, kind of like a lot of people were. I continued to eat and put on even more weight. And I remember standing in front of a mirror in our bedroom, getting ready to kind of go into the bathroom. And I had just done, for those of you that don't know, there was a period of my life where I had gotten pretty heavily into magic as a magician, as silly as that may sound. It was just a hobby that I absolutely loved. And I was performing at an event, and I saw the photos from the event, looking at myself in the mirror and realizing how far I had come from where I was in the Army, how fit I used to be. And I realized that I had fallen so far from what I knew that I was capable of. I knew I had to make a change. And the thing that really clicked for me was, before seeing those photos, I realized that probably a period of 3 or 4 months, I had avoided cameras like the plague. I mean, even if you watch my videos now, I have very few what I would call before photos, just because I could not, it was almost a little bit of shame thinking about how far I had let myself fall. But at any rate, I remember there was that time where I was like, okay, I know I have to make a change and I have to do things differently. So that moment for me, again, was when I was at my heaviest, a few months into COVID. And one of the things that really stuck with me, and deciding not only okay, now I need to make the change, but really understanding my why. And for me, what that why looks like, 100%, it is my girls and Carrie and wanting to be around with them well into their adult lives. My father passed away a few years before that point. My father passed away when he was 58 years old. And I just think about, I want to be around and healthy for my girls well into their adult lives. And that was the why that propelled me to stay consistent and to learn how to do it in a sustainable way. But it is so important to have that moment because nothing when it comes to weight loss, there is no magic. There is no silver bullet. You've got to have the why, and you've got to be willing to make the change. You can't just buy weight loss. You can't have it shipped to you. So you've got to have that moment. And you got to have that why. So for me, that was mine. A few months into COVID, I knew I had to make that change. I was at my heaviest. I was unrecognizable in the mirror and knew that I had to make a change for my girls. Now, next up, we are going to go ahead and shift gears a little bit. We are going to have our first caller on. So, Dwayne, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, glad to have you here. How's everything in your world?
Everything is going great. I'm alive, out of the bed. No complaints here.
Oh, good stuff. You can't beat that. And a fellow Brevard native or Brevard resident, at least. Good stuff.
Yes.
Well, what's your question, man? What's on your mind?
What was that pivotal moment that said, you know what, I got to do it right now?
Yeah. So I think for me, that the reason that I had to do it at that time, and I think the thing that was different, some of this absolutely has to do with the fact that I'm getting a little older now. I'm 37 now. I consider myself still very young. Like I'm on TikTok. I'm on YouTube. I consider myself very young. But the reason why I knew that I had to make the change, I think just really considering and thinking about the fact that my father had passed away and really like doing the math and realizing that if I don't make the change sooner rather than later, I'm going to get to that point where it's going to be harder to make the change. So I think that thing that really stood out for me was I want to be healthy. I want to make it, barring any accidents, let's call it 85. I think to me that'd be, but if I want to make it the next 50 years, what I'm not going to be able to do is let my health deteriorate until I'm in my late 50s, early 60s, and then be able to make the change. I really did, just with a little bit of maturity, I realized how quickly time passes. I think you and I were talking right before the show. Carrie and I moved away from Brevard County 18 years ago, and it's crazy how fast that time flies. So the reason that moment was important for me was, I couldn't tell you everything that I knew it was the now or never kind of moment, if that makes sense.
Wow, I'm glad you made that change, man. I know you feel, good.
No, for sure. And I think the thing that was different for me than every other time is when I decided to make the change. The thing that I committed to was not only losing the weight, obviously, like we got to do that to get healthy, but I was really committed to figuring out how to do it sustainably so that one, not only could I lose the weight, but two, I would actually maintain it, because it would do me no good if I lost all the weight in 3 months and then 6 months later put it back on. It's like 4 years would have gone by and I'd be in the same spot. So I was really committed to I need to do this long term, which means I need to enjoy the ride. And that's kind of what I'm doing now, or trying my best to at least.
Indeed. It's like it's a journey. It's not a race. It's a marathon,
100%. So I love that you say that, because there are so many sayings out there that are cliche, but the thing that I have learned is they're cliche for a reason, right? It's because they're true. So when you say it's a marathon, not a sprint, I cannot tell you how many times I've heard that. We've all heard that. But then I think the thing that I struggled with was, how do I actually practically implement that in a weight loss journey. And the thing that I think that I implemented was I would just ask myself the question, can I keep this up? Because in a marathon, if you are out of the gate sprinting, if you were in that moment to ask yourself, can I keep this up? I think the answer to that would be no, which means you need to slow down. If you go out of the gate super slow and you ask yourself, can I keep this up? Now, you may or may not be able to, but at least if you can't answer that yes, then you don't stand a chance.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think a lot of times, on the journey, you got to forgive yourself too. I think that's the biggest struggle with this. You got to forgive yourself for your mistakes. You got to forgive yourself for not knowing that you shouldn't have done that or you did too much, and just keep going. And I think once we can forgive our mistakes, we can keep it up. We can keep it up,
100%, right? Like you do got to leave the past in the past, right? Like,
yes.
No, I love that. Well, again, man, thank you so much. Great having you on, and we'll see you around town, man.
Oh, for sure.
All right. Next up, we have Cameron joining us.
Hey, Ryan, how's it going?
Hey, Cameron, doing great, man. How's everything in your world?
Oh, it's great, man. I mean, I just got to say too, right at the top, I'm such a huge fan. I'm so happy to be here. I mean, I love your videos so much. You're the best, man.
Man, I really do appreciate that. It really does mean the world to me. What started as a way, honestly, these videos started as a way for me to keep myself accountable. I've always been somebody that has kind of like journaled in one form or fashion. And when I started like tracking what I was doing on YouTube, it was a way for me to journal. But any time that somebody tells me that they get something out of the videos, one, I love it. But then two, it means so much to me. If you ever see me out in public, be sure to say hey. But I'm still so small time, man. Like it blows my mind. So it means a lot to me that you say that, but it still doesn't compute in my head sometimes. But I really appreciate that, man.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've gained so much from your videos. Just not like obviously in some fitness journey terms, but also just in entertainment. I mean, it's so great to watch. I love vicariously seeing all the restaurants you go to. And I'm so jealous all the time, man. I want to try Hemingway's.
Oh man, I love Hemingway's. There's like 3 restaurants here in town. They own them all, and the food is great. The atmosphere is great. But I love hearing that comment when somebody tells me like, hey, I don't even care about weight loss. Like, I just like watching the videos. I take that as a super high compliment. Well, good stuff, man. So what's your question today?
Yeah. So basically I've recently been getting into the gym myself. I've always been, I mean, I don't know if you can tell on camera, I've always been very scrawny. I've always been a very skinny guy, growing up, kind of, look like a little alien type of thing. So I've been trying to, build some muscle and really get into the gym. And the biggest challenge for me, I guess, is figuring out how to support the gym habit with, I guess, food choices and eating. Because my issue is I eat too little, I think. Mm-hmm. And so what I'm wondering from you is how do you kind of support the gym with food to help that, like, not necessarily just about the amount of food, but even like what are the types of foods that are helpful when you're starting a new gym habit or kind of setting out on a new lifestyle, I guess.
No, for sure. So I think there's a few things to think about. So I always like to give advice or ideas. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm just some guy on the internet. But I always like to give like 2 types of advice. One of them is like that kind of more philosophical, that mindset. But then I also want to give some practical tips as well. And there's like a balance. So the first thing that I would say, as far as mindset goes, if you're looking to get into the gym, looking to build some muscle, very similar to weight loss or any endeavor in life, is like approaching it with the mindset of doing this long term. What can I find that works for me? That is an important aspect to it, right? Because everybody's path is a little different. So we got to find what works for us. So that's like the philosophical thing, is like, you may try different things, and that is a part of the process. But as long as you're committed to making lasting change, you're going to see far more results out of trying something and finding out that it didn't work for you versus looking for the perfect way to do it, but then never actually doing anything. So that's the first bit of like advice, like try different things. Now, as far as getting into like the practical side of things, when we talk about nutrition and lifting weights and all that kind of stuff, one, it is important to understand what our goal is, because our lifestyle and our choices need to support the goal. One of the things, so what are you looking to get out of what you're doing in the gym? If it's, I'm looking to get stronger, I'm looking to look better, like each of those answers are going to have a different prescription as far as what you should be doing. But if your just general goal is to get stronger in the gym, some of the things that you can do are obviously like it's getting in the training itself, the good resistance training, but supporting that with good protein, either before or after. You know, there's a lot of debate out there. At the end of the day, like just getting in sufficient protein, and, you know, it's just a ballpark number. It's different for everybody, but let's call it like, you know, if you're trying to build muscle, call it 1.2 grams per pound of body weight, trying to get that in, and also making sure that you are eating good carbs to be able to fuel your workouts. Now, for you, my recommendation would be, if you're getting into the gym now, I always recommend that people track what they do.
Yeah.
Because you need that data, and that's going to tell you if what you're even doing is working. So what does that look like for you? You track your workouts. You track your workouts by writing your sets and your weights. We want to do that because we want to make sure if building muscle is the goal, we want to make sure we're increasing weights and reps over time. So you should have that data. So, and then you're tracking your calories that you're consuming, and you're tracking your weight. And then based off of how you are progressing, then you know which of those to address. If you are eating enough calories and gaining weight, but your strength isn't going up, well, maybe that means that you're gaining some body fat and you're not getting strength. So keep your calories the same, but now increase your intensity. So I need you to really focus on increasing your weights and reps, actually getting stronger. If you're getting stronger and your weight isn't staying the same, you know, maybe we can increase calories to put on size and that kind of stuff. But if you are having trouble eating enough calories, if you find that you are increasing, but you're not gaining weight and you're not gaining strength, and you need to eat more, well, focus on eating more, not necessarily a certain number. That's where tracking. So Figure out what you are eating. Let's just say it's 2,000 calories. Yeah, maybe 3,000 is ideal, but if you can't do that, like, don't stress about that. Just do, if you're eating 2,000, aim for 2,200. So an extra protein shake a day, or maybe an extra serving. That's where that, like, make that incremental change. Like, yes, maybe ideal is this area, but if you're doing this, you don't need to get it here right away. Getting here is one step closer, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. That's great. That's very helpful. Yeah. Thank you.
No, good stuff, man. Again, thanks for joining us today. And let me know. Be sure to reach out if you have any questions about like the workouts and stuff themselves. And then I will be sure. I'll have my assistant coach, Mike. He's the strength and conditioning guy. I'll have him take a look. All right.
Oh, man. Thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely reach out. Thanks again. So glad to be a part of this.
Oh, no, man. Super glad to have you on. All right. Good stuff. Next up, we have Kyle. And I think, you know, we were already before the show talking a little bit about some of the stuff we talked about here. But Kyle, welcome to the show. Super glad to have you on, man.
Happy to be on. Calling in from California. It's a high of 62 right now.
Whereabouts in California are you at?
I'm right there in the Central Valley. So I'm about 2.5 hours away from the beach and about 2 hours away from the mountains when it snows.
So how much does your weather stay the same year round? Does yours fluctuate, or is it the same every day? I had a friend from San Diego, and that's all he ever talked about was how it's perfect weather.
No, we'll go up to, you know, it's 60s now, but when it hits summer, we might get up to 120. So, you know, it'll almost feel like the desert here.
So I'll say, what's your I know I want to talk a little bit about kind of your overall story, but like, what's your question for today?
I would say just finding that balance between fitness and health style, but then, you know, I am a husband, a father of two. I guess just making it to where I can continue on a healthy journey, but not being still being involved and, just finding that balance.
No, for sure. So, man, I could talk ad nauseum for that. It's something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about myself. But before we get into that a little bit, I mean, tell everyone that's listening just briefly kind of about your story a little bit, because I know it was super impressive to me. So I'd love to hear a little bit, and then kind of we'll go into that.
So there was two things you were talking about earlier, kind of that picture or that moment when you realized you need to make a change. And there's a photo of me and my wife from when we got engaged. And I look back and I'm like, you know what? I looked pretty good. Like I was in good shape and stuff. It was probably the best shape I had been in. And then I remember slightly before COVID had happened, I remember being at a jungle gym with my kids. And me and my son, we have a rare disease called tuberous sclerosis complex. We grow benign tumors in our major organs. And because of that, my son has autism and epilepsy. So one thing that triggers his seizures is when he gets overstimulated. So we had a fear of sending him into this giant playground where we couldn't find him by himself. So I remember crawling around in there with him for about 20 minutes. And at that point, I was completely gasped. I was like, this is the hardest thing. You don't think you're out of shape until you try to do something that you think is going to be easy. And it was just the climbing up and down. And at that point, I was 365. So, that was in 2020. And, I'm currently 200 right now. So I've lost 165 through intermittent fasting.
I love that. And I think one of the things again, man, that is absolutely impressive, phenomenal. Stories like that 100% kind of motivate me as well. And I think, we'll talk about like balancing everything here in a second, but I just wanted to take a second to acknowledge like how far you have already come. Like you're already crushing it, man. So good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate that. And I can look at the number and I can see that's a big accomplishment. And, something, we had mentioned earlier was just the way that I did it. I can look back now and see how I was too hard on myself. I looked at the numbers so much. When you start working out and you're at a higher weight that I was, the first 30, 60 pounds comes off. When you make a complete 180 like I did, I went complete cold turkey. It was like, it's changing now. And, I changed all my habits, but, I was so hard on myself. And through that 165, it was going down, going up, going down, going up. And, I spent up until about the last year where I've kind of really been able to kind of regulate it and still do intermittent fasting, but still enjoy those going out to eat with people, or when we have birthday parties or when it's holidays. I'm not just sitting there, walking in place in the corner, while everyone's eating and socializing and, having, enjoying time. Because, now a lot of our culture today is brought around food.
No, for sure. And I think that's one of the things. So like getting back into like finding that balance, one of the things that I recommend is some of it goes back to finding your why in that, what is the reason I'm doing this? Because that's going to dictate how much kind of balance you have. And I think sometimes as guys, and maybe girls as well, but I know one of the things that I think about is I always have this picture in my head about like, I want to be a high performance athlete. And it's like, if that's the goal, then you don't have as much flexibility, right? But then we've got to be honest with ourselves about, all right, what is my actual goal? So that's my first bit of recommendation, is just being kind of honest with yourself about what your goal is. If your goal is to be just generally healthy, be around, be active with your kids, okay, now that we accept and acknowledge that, now we know we do have some room for flexibility. So how do I fit that into balancing like life and health and fitness? I know that there are now seasons to life. There are seasons where you're super busy, and it's during those seasons where you want to have kind of those baseline habits to where even if it's busy. So for me, that's like fasting. I'm going to fast 80-90% of the year, regardless of what's going on, because that fits into my lifestyle. Even if things are busy, I can keep fasting because things are so busy. I'm actually going to save 15 minutes by not stopping to eat, right? Like it just fits in well. But a good example is September through December of 2022. I was working a 9-to-5 job in a management position, salaried position. So I was working a decent amount of hours there. I was doing YouTube, which was, 10 to 15 hours a week, filming, editing, like getting all the videos. And I had just started online weight loss coaching. So from the period of September through December of 2022, like I was working a lot. That was a busy season of life. So I did not work out as frequently, but then I know, going back to finding balance, what is my overall goal is to be generally healthy, not to be overweight, to be active. And I was still able to support that goal and kind of shift around certain things. So I still hit all my fasts. I still got in my one workout a week, but then showing myself a little bit of grace, being like, hey, if you can't get it in this week, like that's okay. That's where life is kind of taken over. And then as I have different seasons of life, being able to have those different pillars of health. So some of it's nutrition, some of it's fitness, some of it's mindset, and like being able to adjust those. I think where I struggled the most is if I couldn't do one thing, it's like I might as well not do anything and then completely fall off, which is the opposite of balance.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I'd be very frustrated with myself if I missed that workout that I had planned or something came up. It was like, well, the day's shot now, all this work, I missed one thing and it's all come tumbling down.
Oh yeah, that single thought is like the biggest killer of health and fitness like journeys and weight loss goals, is the idea that one slip up negates everything good you did. So I love that. Well, good stuff, man. Again, absolute, like super inspirational, and like you're doing great at this point. So the thing that I'd say is just like continue to evaluate what your goals are, do what you can, and understand that doing 80% good most of the time is good enough, and compound that over years. You're really going to win by just never quitting.
Oh yeah. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
All right. So next up, we have a portion of the show where we go to the comment section from my YouTube videos. And today's comment comes from a user that just realized that I made these videos and that I continue to make these videos because I used to be overweight. He said, "Oh, now I get it. You used to be overweight." Smacked my head. I'm stupid. So I know that there are some people that are newer to my page and my channel and may not see where I started. And part of the reason that I still make these videos is to hold myself accountable. Also, I've always enjoyed journaling, which has taken many forms, and it's now just a form of the video vlog. And there was a point in my life where I was extremely overweight. I was about 270 pounds. I stand at 5'11". And one of the reason that I make these videos is twofold. One is to help keep myself accountable by showing everybody kind of what I'm up to. That kind of helps keep me honest a little bit. I love sharing. And then two, I have this goal. I want to be in better shape in my 40s than I was in my 20s. And when I get there, I want to be able to show people like it took place over years. When I'm very healthy at 45, I'm going to say, here's 12 years of what I ate and what I did. Follow along and you'll see I never made extreme changes. I just did mostly good most of the time, and that kind of results in it. So today's comment, yes, I did used to be overweight. If you are new to the channel, you may not see a big change from day to day, week to week, maybe even month to month, but I encourage you to stick around for the next few years and see that change over time. Wrapping up today, it is clear that finding your why kickstarts the journey, but it's what comes after that that really counts. It's about the choices that we make every day and keeping that initial spark alive and using it to fuel our progress. Whether you're at the beginning or you've come a long way, it's about taking steps, big or small, towards better health. I'm right here with you every step of the way. Let's keep pushing forward making those small changes that add up over time. Remember, it's about progress over perfection. Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Progress Over Perfection podcast. Remember, we are not looking to lose weight fast. We are looking to lose weight forever. If you have a question or would like to be a caller on the show, check out the description. Make sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel for clips and shorts of the show, and add us wherever you listen to your podcast. Thanks again for the support, and we will see you next week.